anything that happened in Baltimore from 2000 and 2001, if I tell it in my story, I can tell it in my story because I was there when Ray went through what he went through in Atlanta. I was there. I was picking him up from the courthouse. He was living with me in my basement. So if I want to tell my story, that I should be able to include that.
What's going on there, guys? Back with another one. Have to talk about Ray Lewis and Shannon Sharpe again briefly on today as Ryan Clark has chimed in on the situation. I wanted to share that clip at the beginning because we've looked at what each person has had to say. Ray Lewis pretty much saying Shannon Sharpe has sold his soul to kind of be elevated in the media space, whereas, Shannon is looking at him like, wow, I was there for you when you were going through your darkest period and you were living with me, so he probably feels betrayal. A lot of people say things in the media, and obviously Shannon has allowed some people to say things on his platform as well that have people taking shots like a Mike Epps, but there are certain ones that hurt worse, and this one is the most personal, probably, of all the shots we've seen taken to this point. Obviously, we've seen Cam and Mace go at him. Shannon has went back and forth with quite a few people, but this one you could see how he responded. That he was a bit hurt. So let's get into what Ryan Clark had to say about this, guys. Let's peep.
Ray Lewis, though, fell victim to the exact same thing he ended up sort of condemning by the time he was finished talking about Shannon Sharpe. I don't know what their relationship was, right? So when you have a relationship, sometimes there are things that go on personally that make you view a person different. But I think the one thing that Ray Lewis should understand more than any of us is grace and redemption. Right? Ray Lewis went through something extremely public that could have ruined him as a player and as a person. And now people have allowed Ray to grow far enough away from that to where they do see him as a spiritual leader, to where they do see him as a leader of men. And so when he's speaking on that platform in that manner about Shannon Sharpe, one, in order to accept his words, we had to accept him and forgive whatever transgressions people felt took him away from being the Ray Lewis they knew at that time and allow him to grow back into it. And so I think he has to think about that as well. And as far as like any money or any fame, like money doesn't change people. It only enhances your desires and who you are. And the thing you got to do when you're looking at entertainment, right, because this is entertainment, is do I want to become a caricature of myself? And if my priority is money, what am I willing to give up in order to get money? Am I willing to give up my integrity? Am I willing to give up my character? Am I willing to turn into something different to get the money, right? And it's like some people rather lose as themselves than win as something else. Some people just want to win at all costs. And I'm not saying that Shannon has done that. All I'm saying is we actually don't know, right? And so when you're speaking on who somebody is from personal experience, Ray can do that. I can't. All I know is when I've been around him, he's been good to me. I know he's picked up the phone and hollered at me. He's definitely done things that I disagree with, things that I wouldn't choose or do for myself. But it's also not on me to condemn him in the manner that now people have to look at my past and say, okay, is this somebody that should be saying those things? And I think for Ray, it is a situation of like, if that's supposed to be your guy, if you are living in the way that Christ has led you, right, where is that grace? Where is that compassion?
Now, honestly, I wrestle with my feelings on this because you could tell Ray Lewis has love for Shannon, deep down inside as well. I could see Shannon's viewpoint like, dude, you live with me. Like, we should be able to talk about anything. Or this is another thing. I think you can decline to talk about Shannon Sharpe on those platforms. If he asked him about the media space, he could have said, yeah, he's taking it to new heights. He is doing a lot of things in media that many people didn't expect of him. You could just leave the answer bland if you have other feelings behind it, but to go on question his content, because I do think sometimes Shannon might get a little on the wild side. They went and found some old stuff where he had talked about the OnlyFans model, and it came back to bite him in his behind. They were sharing that clip, right? But I also think Shannon and Ocho do offer some good insight on the game of football at times, right? Like when they get in the football season, I think they are breaking it down to a place where an expert and a novice can kind of be drawn in to learn more about the game. So I do think some of the content, is really good. But I don't like all of everybody's content. Everybody don't like all of my content, but um I, I think Ray was speaking more specifically to the yak, the miles, the uh, alcohol. But I mean, he went on to sell his Laportier, so maybe he was trying to get more or try to get an endorsement, and that turned into it being his own. Um, for them, I feel like it's still a conversation that can be had. Maybe Ray needs to reach out first, obviously, as a Christian brother. Um, you probably see this is my thing. I think him and Shannon have had conversations even about faith and stuff prior to Shannon becoming this superstar that he is. And to look at him as they've aged, and it seems like maybe he's going backwards in some areas, he probably feels some type of way. Um, that he's chosen fortune and fame over, his soul standing. That's how he's looking at it. And, Shannon is getting the bag. He's probably looking at it like, wow, the dudes that's closest to me is taking these shots, like a Ray Lewis for real. So, this thing goes back to the whole Colin Kaepernick kneeling and all that. He probably feels like Shannon, when he had his voice, and he was powerful, media person on FS1 at that time. He feels like that he took a shot at him that he shouldn't have took. And so, is this about that, or is it about him truly wanting his brother to get away from things like we seen it came out, and he has to shuck over $20 million to this 23-year-old woman that he retired from OnlyFans? Is he really concerned for him in that way, or because I don't think it's jealousy. Like Ray Lewis don't strike me as somebody who wants to be in his position in media, so I don't think he's jealous about it, but I do think that these brothers should talk still, because Ray don't strike me. This ain't like somebody that you would think is scared to say it in your face. You know what I'm saying? So that would be my thing. And he said it on a public platform. We see with the Young Thug thing that things come out on tape, and it's a lot worse when it's behind your back. But he said it on a public platform. So yeah, man, Ray, reach out to Shannon. Y'all have a conversation, man. In my opinion, let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Till next time, peace.